They welded my cabin gate shut on a Tuesday. Not locked. Welded. I stood there, in the thin mountain air, coffee steaming in my hand, staring at a bead of fresh silver weld where my gate had swung freely the day before. On the other side of the fence, the single-lane asphalt road that snaked down to the highway was quiet, lined with identically beige houses and manicured pines. All of them thought that road belonged to their HOA. None of them knew it still sat on my deed. I am Daniel Cole, 45, civil engineer by trade, stubborn hermit by preference. 15 years ago, I bought 70 acres of scrubby Colorado hillside and a tired hunting cabin from an old rancher named McAllister. Back then, there was no subdivision, no HOA, just a rutted ranch road that cut from the county highway across my land up to the cabin. Then came the boom. McAllister sold his front 40 to a developer, who carved it into 30 Aspen Vista estates lots and paved my ranch road into a private drive. Overnight, my quiet tract became the only way in or out for 30 luxury homes. That change came with one crucial detail. As part of the sales contract, the developer asked to buy the strip under the road. McAllister refused. Instead, he granted a recorded easement, non-exclusive access for ingress and egress across. Grantor's parcel for the benefit of lot owners in Aspen. Vista Estates revocable for cause? When I bought from him, I stepped into his shoes as grantor road still on my tax bill. Maintenance technically still my responsibility, and that revocable for cause phrase. My attorney had underlined it 3 times. At first, it worked. I plowed the road in winter, graded it in spring, sent the HOA mild invoices for rock and diesel. Their original president, a retired teacher named Linda, always paid on time and waved when she drove by. They understood it was my land, their easement, and we coexisted. Then Linda moved to Arizona, and Karen moved in. Karen Whitfield appeared like mold after a flood. Yoga pants, giant sunglasses, voice that carried across the ridge. Within 6 months, she had taken over the HOA board, started a Facebook group called Aspen Vista Pride, and declared war on anything she considered off-brand mountain living. That included my cabin. My place is not pretty in the brochure sense. Hand-hewn logs, galvanized metal roof stack of split pine by the wall. My truck is a 2005 F-250 with a winch and mud on the tires. I do not put fairy lights in the trees or faux antler wreaths on the door. Karen hated it on sight. You know, the HOA has architectural standards, she said the first time she marched up my driveway, clipboard in hand. I am not in your HOA, I replied, not bothering to hide my smile. That should have been the end of it. But petty people treat boundaries as dares. The letters started arriving a week later. Notice visible trash cans from Community Road. Notice unsightly woodpile impacting neighborhood aesthetics. Notice non-compliant gate color. Every one of them on Aspen Vista Estates letterhead, everyone addressed to member. Everyone I mailed back with 3 words written in thick red marker. Not a member. I even attached a copy of my deed and their covenants, the signature line where each buyer had agreed and the blank where my name was not. Your paperwork is outdated. Karen emailed after the 4th returned notice. This community has evolved. You use our road, you benefit from our plowing and security. You are effectively part of the HOA, I replied once. You use my road per easement, I plow it. Security is a county issue. Stop contacting me. So she changed tactics. Karen called the county to report an unsafe structure and tried to get my cabin condemned. The inspector came up, checked the foundations, read my permits, and left shaking his head. She tried to shame me on Facebook, posting grainy cell phone shots of my truck and captioning them. I saw her at the end of the street. Most of her neighbors either ignored it or quietly messaged me screenshots with embarrassed apologies. But welding my gate shut was different. Gate or not, she had always known she needed that road. She just could not resist a show of force. I set my mug on the fence post and ran a gloved hand along the weld. Still warm. Whoever did it had been here within the last few hours. A faint smell of burnt metal still hung in the crisp air. My gate sat 10 feet inside my property line. Past it, the pavement narrowed, then arced down the slope, curling between their houses like a snake. At the very bottom, half a mile away, it met the county highway. There was no other way out. Steep rock walls boxed the subdivision. In on two sides, a river on the third. One road in, one road out. On my land, a soft hum behind me made me turn. My neighbor Rachel from Lot 7 rolled up in her Subaru. Kids' backpacks in the back seat, brow furrowed. "Dan, what happened to your gate?" she asked, leaning out the window. "Someone welded it," I said. "Let me guess who." Her face fell. "They did this last night." Karen said the board approved it as security that too many strangers were using. The end of the road, I told them it was your gate, your parcel. She said you were basically HOA and needed to comply. "Did she now?" I murmured. Rachel lowered her voice. "Look, I do not agree with it, but can I still get to work? The kids' bus comes in 20 minutes. I stepped back, looked at the road, then at my fused gate. I had already mentally measured the hinge. Posts, I could cut it. Free in 15 minutes with my grinder. I could also call the sheriff, show him the damage, and turn this into what it was, criminal mischief. Instead, something my grandfather used to say floated up. "Never waste a man showing you who he is, Danny. Use it." "Email me everything," Lydia said. "Deeds, easement photos of the weld, any letters they've sent, and don't touch that gate yet. I need to get in and out." I said, "I can't leave it sealed." "You can cut it later," she replied. "First, I need clean evidence. Walk around it, get the property. Markers in the frame if you can. I want anyone with half a brain to see that gate is on your side of the line." I hung up, did exactly that survey stake with my parcel number. Gate posts. It'd set in concrete 10 years ago. Fresh weld, HOAs, ornamental Aspen Vista sign in the distance. By the time I got back inside, my inbox was already dinging. From Lydia. Subject: Aspen Vista easement. "This is not a fence dispute. This is an easement interference case." Good news. Their documents are sloppy. Bad news. Petty HOAs do stupid things when cornered. Am drafting a demand letter. Don't talk to them. Don't respond to emails. If they show up, records say, "My attorney will contact you," and walk away. The rest of the day I watched. People came and went like any other weekday. SUVs, delivery vans, a school bus. Every time someone passed my sealed gate, I could see the moment their eyes flicked over confused. A few slowed down, one guy in a Jeep actually. Stopped, got out, and touched the weld. Then shook his head like he couldn't believe it. Late afternoon, Karen herself made her entrance. Her white Range Rover rolled up, paused by my fence, and she got out in her usual uniform. High ponytail, expensive leggings. HOA name badge like she was running a Fortune 500 company. Instead of a 30-home subdivision, she didn't approach the cabin this time, just stood there, hands on hips, admiring her work. "That looks much better," she said out loud to no one, then took a photo of the sealed gate and drove off. My trail cam caught it in high resolution. At 5 p.m., my email pinged again. This time it was from Aspen Vista Estates Board. "Dear resident, for security reasons and to prevent unauthorized access beyond the community terminus, the HOA has installed a permanent closure at the end of Aspen Vista Drive. This action was taken after multiple concerns about strange vehicles and non-residents accessing the area beyond the gate. Thank you for understanding that the safety of our families comes first. Sincerely, Karen Whitfield, President." I forwarded it straight to Lydia. Her reply was one line. "Perfect. They just admitted to permanent closure. Call the sheriff, file a report for criminal mischief and interference with easement." Use those exact words. I don't like dragging law enforcement into neighbor fights. I grew up in a town where you solve things with a handshake at the feed. Store, not paperwork, but this wasn't a blown-over fence or a stray cow anymore. They had welded steel on my posts and cut off my only vehicle, access to the highway. So I made the call. Dispatch sent Deputy Torres, a younger guy I'd seen around but never dealt with. He pulled up in a dust-coated Tahoe, parked on the shoulder, and walked up the road, squinting at the gate. "Afternoon," he said. "You the reporting party?" "Yeah," I said, Dan Cole. He ran his hand along the weld, and this wasn't like this yesterday. "Nope. You know who did it." I held up my phone with Karen's email on the screen. They don't exactly hide it. He read, lips moving slightly. Then his eyes went to the survey stake, then to the printed parcel map. I'd clipped to the gate. "This your pin?" he asked. "County says so," I said, "and here is my deed. And here is the recorded easement to the subdivision." We spread the papers on the hood of his Tahoe. Torres took his time, tracing the easement language with a finger. "So technically," he said slowly, "this road crosses your property. They have the right to use it. You have the right to keep using your own land, and they have welded your gate, which is on your side, shut. That is how my lawyer reads it." I said, "I just want a report on file. I will cut the weld myself. But if we end up in court over this, I need something more than my word against theirs." He nodded. "Can't blame you." He scribbled in his notebook, glanced back up the road. "Ms. Whitfield did not mention any of this when she called yesterday." "She called you?" I asked. He grimaced. "Yesterday she wanted us to come up and warn the squatter. At the end of the road about loitering, I told her it was not a criminal matter. Looks like she got creative since then. Am I going to get grief from her for filing this?" I asked. Torres gave a humorless laugh. "She already calls weekly." "This one is on her? Not you. I will log it as criminal mischief note, the easement. Attach your documents. And the email. You will get a case. Number by tomorrow." He hesitated. "Off the record. You might also want to talk to the fire chief." "Fire chief," I repeated. "Yeah, Aspen Vista has one way in and out. This road fire department uses it as primary access if the HOA is modifying it without talking to them." He let the thought trail off. They are not going to like that. After he left, I stared down at the asphalt strip running past my gate. One way in, one way out. Not just for them. For medics, for fire, for school buses, for anyone trying to get a fire truck up here in August when the hillside grass turned to tinder. Karen was playing HOA politics. She had no idea she was lining up a different kind of enemy. By morning, Torres' report hit my email. So did Lydia's formal demand letter on heavyweight legal letterhead. "To Aspen Vista Estates Homeowners Association, Inc., Attenboard President Karen Whitfield. Unlawful interference with recorded easement and private property. Dear Miss Whitfield, this firm represents Mr. Daniel Cole, owner of parcel 1784203, the Servient Estate, over which Aspen Vista Estates sole access road crosses. On date, agents of your association welded Mr. Cole's privately owned gate shut materially, interfering with his use and enjoyment of his property and his ability to access the county highway. This constitutes criminal mischief. See attached sheriff's report number and material interference with the easement granted by easement agreement book page, pursuant to Section 4 of said agreement. Mr. Cole hereby provides notice that any further interference will result in immediate suspension and potential revocation of the easement rights upon which your subdivision depends. You have 48 hours from receipt of this letter to remove the weld and restore Mr. Cole's gate to operable condition. Provide written acknowledgement that Aspen Vista Estates has no authority to modify improvements on Mr. Cole's parcel and cease all attempts to treat Mr. Cole as an HOA member. Failure to comply will result in injunctive relief damages and notification to the county fire marshal and planning department regarding your association's interference with the sole emergency access route for your residents. Govern yourselves accordingly. Sincerely, Lydia Chen-esque. I printed 3 copies. One went certified mail to the HOA's P.O. box. One I taped in a plastic sleeve to my welded gate. The third I left on my kitchen table next to a pad of graph paper where I'd started sketching something else, a rectangle representing my parcel, a squiggly line marking the existing road, and a dotted line tracing a possible alternative. Never rely on just one road, my grandfather used to say when we drove old ranch tracks in his beat-up Ford. Fire, flood, neighbor trouble have a way out they can't see. I had always thought he meant it metaphorically. Turns out he was literal. Along my northern boundary, half hidden in timber, there was an overgrown 2-track that had not seen real use in decades. It climbed steep through pines, crossed a rock saddle, then dropped down toward another county road. McAllister had shown it to me once years ago when we walked line fences. "Gets rough near the top," he had said, "but in a pinch you can get a truck over." I had mumbled something about maybe grading it someday. Maybe someday had just arrived. If I was going to even think about pulling the nuclear option terminating, The HOA's easement I needed to know. I was not also stranding myself, or worse, putting innocent neighbors at risk. I spent that afternoon hiking the old track. Years of snowmelt had carved ruts. A few fallen pines blocked the way, but the bones were there. With some chainsaw work, a load of gravel, and my tractor, I could make that two-track functional again. Not pretty, not plowed asphalt. But mine? I took photos, GPS points, and sketched grades in the margins of my notepad. By the time the sun slid behind the ridge, I had a rough plan within a few weekends. I could have a second way out. While I was sweating on the ridge, things were heating up on the asphalt below. That evening, my phone buzzed with an unknown number. "Mr. Cole, this is Karen Whitfield, president of Aspen Vista Estates," the voice said, all sour cordiality. "We received some sort of threatening letter from a lawyer claiming to represent you. Then you know who to talk to," I said. "Her number is at the bottom." In calling as a courtesy, she pressed on, "The board is very concerned. Your gate was sealed for community safety. You can't just revoke our access. People live here. Families, children. You should have thought about that," I said, "before you welded shut the only thing between me and an ambulance." "You are being unreasonable," she snapped. "We have tolerated your non-compliant property for years. This road is effectively HOA common area. The neighborhood paid to pave it. The residents maintain it." "Really?" I said. "Who pays the property taxes on the strip under it?" Silence. "I'll give you a hint," I added. "It is not Aspen Vista Estates." She regrouped. "If you escalate this, you will leave yourself open to a class action from 30 homeowners. My brother-in-law is an attorney. We will tie you up in court for years." I almost laughed. "Karen, my attorney eats HOAs for breakfast, and you picked the one. Rancher on this hill who reads every line of every document he signs." I let that sink in, then added, "You have got 48 hours. Use them wisely." I hung up before she could reply. The next 48 hours were a study in watching. Someone realized they had picked a fight with gravity. First came the emails to the whole community. Long, rambling manifestos about an aggressive landowner threatening their right to travel, calls for emergency meetings veiled, accusations that I was unstable. Then came the door knocks, neighbors I barely knew, faces tight with worry. "Is it true you are going to block the road?" they would ask. "Not if I can help it," I would say. "But your board interfered with my easement. I am not the one who welded a gate." Most got quiet at that. On the second day, a white pickup with the County Fire District logo pulled up by my fence. A tall man in uniform stepped out, looked at my gate, then at the road. "Mr. Cole," he called, "I am Chief Ramirez. Mind if we talk?" I walked down bracing for a lecture. Instead, he nodded toward the weld. "Who did this?" "HOA," I said. "They say it is for security." He snorted. "Security, my ass. This is our primary access. If that weld had jammed during a fire, I would be cutting steel while your hillside burned." He looked me over. "I got a copy of your lawyer's letter. You really have the right to pull their easement." "I do," I said, "but I will not do it without talking to you and the county first. I do not want to trap anyone up here. I just want them to stop acting like this is their private driveway." He studied me for a long moment. "You got another way out for yourself?" "Working on it," I said. "Old ranch track to County 12, needs clearing, but it is there." He nodded slowly. "Here is what I am going to do. I am filing an incident report with the county commissioners and attaching photos of this weld. I am recommending that any future modifications to this road go through my office and planning, not some HOA board." He looked me square in the eye. "If you decide to shut this easement down, you let me know first. We can talk detours, funds to help you improve that back. Route, maybe even cost share. Last thing we need is a death trap because one president got power hungry." For the first time since I saw the weld, I felt something like relief. I was not crazy. I was not alone. Karen had picked a fight with the wrong neighbor. She just did not know how wrong yet. Chief Ramirez drove off, leaving tire tracks in the thin dust by my fence and a knot of satisfaction in my chest. By sunset, Karen's 48 hours were up. My gate was still welded. No apology. No handyman. No, we may have overstepped. Just another all-caps email blast to the neighborhood. Urgent community alert. A hostile landowner is threatening to cut off access to Aspen Vista Drive. The board is working with legal counsel to protect your rights. Do not engage with him directly. All communication must go through the HOA. I poured a whiskey, forwarded it to Lydia, and braced for whatever legal counsel meant in Karen's world. It didn't take long. The next morning, a guy in a cheap suit and shiny shoes showed up unannounced, parking his sedan half in the ditch. He walked up with a briefcase, and that practiced half-smile lawyers wear when they're billing by the minute. "Mr. Cole," he asked. "Depends who's asking," I said. He offered a card. "Thomas Greer, representing Aspen Vista Estates Homeowners Association. I'd like to discuss your recent threats regarding their access road." "Great," I said. "My attorney loves discussions. Her contact info is in that letter your client ignored." I was hoping he said ignoring that we might avoid escalating this. "Surely you don't want to be responsible for trapping dozens of families. That won't look good in front of a judge." I leaned against my fence, crossed my arms. "Him not the one welding gates and pretending my land is common area." He cleared his throat. "Regardless, the HOA has enjoyed uninterrupted use of this road for over a decade. They've invested substantially in paving and plowing. That creates certain equities. A court may find you're estopped from suddenly revoking access." He said estopped like it was a magic spell. I pulled my phone from my pocket, tapped to open a PDF Lydia had sent the night before. "Funny thing," I said. "My easement agreement says non-exclusive, revocable for cause. Your clients welded my gate shut and labeled this road HOA private street on their signs. That's not uninterrupted, that's interference." He opened his mouth. I held up a finger. "And before you start about public policy, I added the fire chief's already filed a report about that weld. County planning has a copy. If anyone looks bad in front of a judge, it won't be the guy who's kept the road open for 15 years? His confident smile wilted a little. "So you're unwilling to negotiate?" I almost laughed. "I'm very willing to negotiate. Through my attorney. In writing, after the weld comes off my gate." He stood there for a moment like he wasn't used to people not taking his bait. "You're making this harder than it needs to be. That's what your client's welder said about my hinges," I said. "Have a nice day, Mr. Greer." I went back inside and texted Lydia. "They brought a lawyer. Told him to talk to you." Still welded. Her reply popped up seconds later. "Good. Let them file first. I'm drafting our own motion. Also clear your schedule for Thursday at 6 p.m. They've called an emergency HOA meeting. I want you there." Why I typed, "I'm not in their hall." Exactly, she wrote. "Time for their neighbors to hear exactly who gave them a lifeline and who tried to cut it." On Thursday, I parked my truck on the gravel shoulder, just short of my gate, and walked down the road toward their little cul-de-sac park. Aspen Vista's clubhouse was really just a repurposed model home with folding chairs in the living room and a faux stone fireplace someone had hung a TV over. As I approached, people stared like I was a ghost walking into his own funeral. Karen stood at the front, arms folded beside a projector, screen showing a PowerPoint titled, "Emergency Response to Threatened Road Closure," subtle as ever. Lydia sat quietly in the back row, legal pad in hand, looking like she'd rather be cross, examining a hostile witness than balancing on a folding chair. Karen cleared her throat into a wireless mic. "Thank you all for coming on such short notice," she began. "As you know, the individual who owns the parcel at the end of our street has made alarming threats to revoke Aspen Vista's access. Our attorney believes these threats may not be enforceable, but we're here to stand, united as a community." A murmur of anxiety rippled through the room. Parents shifted, kids fidgeted. It wasn't lost on anyone that their minivans had one way back to the highway. Karen clicked the remote. An image of my gate with Lydia's letter taped to it filled the screen. Zoomed in on the phrase revocation of easement. "This," she said, "is what we're dealing with, an unstable neighbor misusing legal jargon to scare us. We paved that road. We maintain it. We are entitled to use of it." I raised my hand. She ignored me. A man in a Broncos hoodie spoke up. "So can he actually block us in?" "No," Karen said quickly. "Tom, our association counsel, assures me easements can't just be taken away. We have rights." "Then why did the fire chief show up?" someone else asked. "He was at my door yesterday, asking what we knew about the gate." Karen's jaw tightened. The chief is overreacting. I told him this is a civil matter, not his concern. Lydia stood. Actually, she said, voice cutting, through the chatter like a gavel under your subdivision plat emergency. Access is very much his concern. Head swiveled. Karen's face flushed. And you are, she demanded. Lydia Chen. Lydia said. Mr. Cole's attorney. She turned slowly, making eye contact with the room. Also the attorney who's read every one of your recorded documents. Has your board done that? A low murmur. Karen fumbled the mic. This is a private HOA meeting, she snapped. Only members can speak. Good news, Lydia said. You're not a legally functioning HOA right now. Your corporate registration is delinquent with the Secretary of State. Any votes you take tonight are about as binding as a Facebook poll. That landed like a dropped anvil. Greer. The HOA lawyer stood up near the front, tugging his jacket straight. Miss Chen, this isn't the place. Relax, Tom, she said. I'm not here to litigate. I'm here to clarify. She walked to the front, not waiting for permission, and turned to the projector. Let's talk about that road you all depend on. She clicked to the next slide, her own laptop somehow already synced to the screen. A plat map appeared, my long rectangle of land there. Jigsaw of lots tacked to one. Side the road, a bold line labeled Access Easement across Parcel 1784-203. This, she said, tapping the Servient Estate label, is Dan's land. He pays taxes on it. He's plowed your only road for years at his own expense. This thin line is your easement, a right to use the road, not to own it. She clicked again. The easement agreement text filled the slide with one line highlighted in yellow. Grantor may terminate this easement upon material interference with grantors. Use in quiet enjoyment. Last week, Lydia said your board welded his gate shut, cutting off his truck access and potentially blocking emergency vehicles. That is material interference. Karen grabbed for the mic. We acted for safety, to stop strangers going past the community. Lydia didn't look at her. You acted without consulting the landowner, the sheriff, or the fire chief. You also posted signage labeling his gate as HOA, private, and sent emails calling his parcel common area. That's not safety. That's overreach. A man from the back, Rachel's husband, Mark, raised his hand. So what happens if he pulls the easement? Then Lydia said calmly, as of whatever time. He records that notice none of you have a legal right to use that road to cross his land. The county would consider your subdivision landlocked. Fire, EMS, school buses, all would need alternate plans. She let that sit for a beat. Dan, she continued, has not done that. Yet, he's offered you 3 reasonable things: remove the weld stop, treating his land like common property, and work out a fair cost-sharing agreement for road maintenance and liability. She turned to Karen now. Your board has refused. All eyes swung to the front. A woman in a faded university hoodie spoke up, voice trembling slightly. Karen, is that true? You welded his gate. It was a board decision, Karen said stiffly. We had multiple complaints about strangers using the turnaround. Strangers like the UPS guy, someone muttered. Or the fire department, another neighbor added. Karen's composure started to crack. You're missing the point. If we give in, hell own us. Hell start charging tolls. He could shut us down any time. Lydia held up a hand. He already could. That's what your developer agreed to when they took the cheap way out instead of buying the roadbed. You bought into that risk when you signed. Dan isn't the one who put you in this position. Silence. Then Rachel stood. So what do we do? She asked. Because I have kids who need that bus. I don't care about ego. I care about safe access. Now Lydia smiled just a little. You elect a board. She said that. Understands the difference between authority and entitlement. You put someone at this table who can sit down with Dan and sign a sensible agreement. She looked right at Karen. And maybe you choose a president who spends less time welding other people's gates and more time reading what they actually own. The vote to recall Karen did not happen that night. HOAs rarely move that fast. People left in a fog. Some angry at me. Some at Karen. Most just scared their tidy lives were built on a technicality. No one had mentioned at closing, but something had shifted. The next morning, my inbox had more messages from neighbors than violation letters. Subject lines like, "Can we talk?" and "We did not know" filled the screen. Mark from Lot 9 came up in person, hat in hand. Look, he said, I did not vote to weld your gate. Karen just did it. It'll help however I can. You should not be footing the bill for plowing either. We all benefit. I said I appreciate that. Right now I just need two things. Room to work on my back road, and time without anyone else trying to improve my land. He laughed weakly. After that meeting, I think Karen's do-it-yourself career is over. I started on the old 2-track that afternoon. Chainsaw, pole saw, winch, one tree at a time. The work was honest and physical, a relief after days of email warfare. Every snag I cleared made the path more real in my mind. A second way out, not just for me, but for whichever fire engine needed it one day. 2 days later, Chief Ramirez came back with his assistant and a topo map. You were not kidding, he said, looking up the rough slope where my back road cut through the trees. You really have another line out. Needs work, I admitted, steep in spots. But with some grading and gravel, a brush truck could make it. Maybe an engine if they are careful. He tapped the map. The county gets emergency access easements when new subdivisions are platted, he said. Aspen Vista only shows this front road. No secondary. Your track could be designated as a formal emergency route. I raised an eyebrow. What does that get me? More people on my land. Maybe, he said, but also leverage. If we can classify this as critical, infrastructure we can tap, mitigation funds to help you build it. And it gives the county something to lean on your friends down the hill with. As if on cue, a white sedan pulled up on the main road. Government plates shining. A woman in a blazer stepped out, clutching a file. Mr. Cole, she called. I am Sandra Roy with County Planning. I wiped sweat from my forehead and walked down to meet her. We have received multiple communications from Aspen Vista HOA about a rogue landowner threatening their access, she said. And we received Chief Ramirez's report. I thought it might be wise to see the situation firsthand. I gestured to the welded gate still taped with Lydia's letter. There is your rogue act, I said. On my property, courtesy of a corporation that is not even in good standing with the state. She knelt and examined the weld, then looked up the road. They never applied for a gate permit, she said. Any private gating of a primary access route has to go through our office and fire. This is not going to fly. She stood and looked between me and the chief. Here is what I propose, she said. We open an enforcement case on the HOA for unpermitted obstruction. At the same time, we fast-track review of improving. Your back route is emergency secondary access. If you are willing, we can do some cost sharing. County pays for geotech and basic grading. You grant us a limited emergency easement. What about my ability to shut their easement if they keep screwing around, I asked. You would still have that civil right under your agreement, she said. But politically, it will go down a lot smoother if you are not trapping them with no way out. With a secondary route on the books, the argument shifts from he is holding us hostage to they broke. The deal that allowed them cheap access. I glanced at Chief Ramirez. He nodded. She is not wrong, he said. That night, Lydia called. Planning reached out, she said. They like you. That is good. It means when and not. If we drop the hammer, there will be fewer sympathetic. Ears for Karen at the county. Drop the hammer, I echoed. She rustled papers on her end. I am drafting a notice of conditional suspension, she said. We are not fully revoking the easement yet. We are putting the HOA on a tight leash. Emergency vehicles and school buses welcome. Residential traffic permitted only if they sign a road use and maintenance agreement by a deadline. And if they do not, I asked. Then she said calmly, we suspend non-emergency use for a day, 24 hours, with full notice to fire the county and law enforcement. No one in, no one out, except 911 and school buses. We document the chaos. Trust me, the board will get new leadership by sundown. It sounded brutal. It also sounded effective. Is that legal, I asked? She laughed softly. Dan, what they did to your gate was not legal, she said. What we are doing is enforcing a contract they have been abusing for years. But if it makes you feel better, we will get a judge's eyes on it first. 2 days later, we were in a small wood-paneled courtroom downtown. An emergency hearing. Cole versus Aspen Vista HOA. Karen sat at the defendant's table in her best blazer. Lips pinched so tight they were nearly white. Greer sat beside her, shuffling papers like he had misplaced his confident somewhere between the printer and the courthouse. Judge Mendez flipped through our filings with visible impatience. "Let me see if I have this straight," she said finally. Peering over her glasses, "Mr. Cole owns the land under Aspen Vista Drive. The subdivision has an easement to use that road. The HOA welded his gate shut without his consent, blocked his driveway, and labeled it HOA property." Greer stood. "Your Honor, the HOA was acting to protect neighborhood security," he said. "We have had reports of unknown vehicles loitering at the dead end." The judge held up a hand. "Counsel, I am not impressed by unknown vehicle arguments," she said. "That is why neighborhoods get patrols, not welders." Lydia rose. "Your Honor, we are not asking for anything extreme today," she said. "Mr. Cole has continued to allow access. He simply wants the court's blessing to condition that access on basic respect for his property, and a written agreement that the HOA will share in maintenance and cease harassment." She slid a proposed order across. "This notice gives them 30 days to sign such an agreement," she said. "If they refuse, Mr. Cole will suspend non-emergency use for 24 hours, with full notice to emergency services and the county, under court supervision." Greer sputtered. "That is collective punishment," he said. "Families trapped because of a technicality." Judge Mendez cut him off. "Families are in this position because your developer built an entire community relying on a private landowner's goodwill instead of buying the road," she said, "and because your client here thought she ran the county." She tapped the easement. "The law is clear," she said. "Easements can be conditioned or terminated if abused. Mr. Cole is frankly being more generous than many landowners would be in his position." She signed the order. "Ms. Whitfield," the judge said, looking directly at Karen, "if I were you, I would spend less time sending angry emails and more time reading what your association actually owns." Court is adjourned. As the gavel fell, Karen's shoulders sagged like someone had cut the strings on a marionette. For the first time, I saw something other than outrage in her face. Fear. The court-stamped notice of conditional suspension landed in every Aspen Vista mailbox on Monday. Plain language. No legalese. As of date, continued non-emergency use of the access road across my land will require a signed road use and maintenance agreement between myself and your HOA. If such an agreement is not signed by deadline, I will suspend non-emergency traffic for 24 hours, per court order, while still allowing full emergency and school bus access. I do not want to trap anyone. I do expect my property to be respected. Daniel Cole. The Facebook group exploded. Screenshots trickled to me through neighbors who had quietly chosen sanity over theatrics. "He can't do this," Karen wrote in one. "We will sue him into the Stone Age. If he shuts the road, we cannot get to work," someone replied. "Maybe we should just sign the agreement. If we give in, he will charge tolls," she shot back. "Then maybe we elect someone else," a different neighbor typed. It was the first time I had seen someone openly question her in that forum. While they argued, Chief Ramirez's crews were grading my back road, orange equipment chewing through duff and rock. County planning had come through with a mitigation grant. Between their dozer and my tractor, the old two-track was starting to look like a respectable lane. "Another week and we can get an engine over this," the chief said, wiping sweat from his neck. "You did good, Cole. Not many folks would think this far ahead." "I had motivation," I said, glancing downhill. Deadline day dawned clear and cold. At 8 in the morning, my phone buzzed. "Lydia." "They have not signed," she said. "You still want to go through with this?" I looked out the window at the ribbon of asphalt cutting across my field. SUVs streaming down toward the highway. Every driver assuming the road would be there just like always. "Yes," I said slowly. "We follow the order. 24 hours. No emergency vehicles blocked. No one in danger. But they need to feel for once how precarious their entitlement is." She sighed. "You have more faith in humans than I do," she said. "But okay, flip the switch." I did not use a switch. I used a gate. Part 18. At 9 in the morning. Following the map we had submitted to the court and the county, I drove my truck down to the junction where my land met the state highway, with a couple of ranch hands I had hired for the day. We set 2 steel posts just inside my fence line, 10 feet apart, and swung a welded pipe gate between them. Bright red, fresh chain, heavy lock, a laminated copy of the court order hung from it with zip ties. We left 12 feet of shoulder clear on the county right-of-way. School buses could nose in and load or unload safely. Fire trucks could cut the chain in seconds if needed. For everyone else, that gate marked a new fact. They were driving on someone else's grace. Chief Ramirez parked his engine nearby. Lights off, crew in standby. Deputy Torres sat in his Tahoe behind them. Case file on the dash. County planner. Roy stood with a clipboard. Ready to log any nonsense? I expected panic. What I got was confusion. Then rage. At 9 in the morning. Following the map we had submitted to the court and the county, I drove my truck down to the junction where my land met the state highway, with a couple of ranch hands I had hired for the day. We set 2 steel posts just inside my fence line, 10 feet apart, and swung a welded pipe gate between them. Bright red, fresh chain, heavy lock, a laminated copy of the court order hung from it with zip ties. We left 12 feet of shoulder clear on the county right-of-way. School buses could nose in and load or unload safely. Fire trucks could cut the chain in seconds if needed. For everyone else, that gate marked a new fact. They were driving on someone else's grace. Chief Ramirez parked his engine nearby. Lights off, crew in standby. Deputy Torres sat in his Tahoe behind them. Case file on the dash. County planner. Roy stood with a clipboard. Ready to log any nonsense? I expected panic. What I got was confusion. Then rage. The first wave of cars rolled back up from work at 5 in the evening. Homeowners slowed, rolled down windows, stared at the strange assembly at the bottom of their world. Road is closed, a dad in a crossover asked. There is nothing on the news. Deputy Torres stepped up. Non-emergency traffic is suspended for 24 hours, sir, he said. Per this court order and the terms of your HOA's easement, you are welcome to park on the county shoulder and walk in. School bus and emergency traffic are not affected. You are kidding, the man said. Because of him, he jabbed a thumb uphill. Because of your HOA's actions, Torres corrected. I suggest you take it up at your next meeting. Some did more than suggest. By 6 in the evening, the path from the highway to my fence looked like a tailgate party. People stood in knots, reading the posted order, muttering. Karen arrived last. Storming down the hill on foot, hair frizzed, phone clutched in one hand. This is illegal, she shrieked as soon as she saw the gate. You cannot imprison people in their own homes. Planner Roy spoke up before I could. Ms. Whitfield, no one is imprisoned, she said. You walk down here. You can walk back. Fire, EMS, and the school district have full access. You were given notice. You were given an opportunity to sign a reasonable agreement. You chose not to. Karen spun on her. You work for the county, she said. We pay taxes. Make him open it. Roy's expression did not change. He pays taxes too, she said, on the land you are standing on. And the court agrees with his right to condition your use of it. A man I recognized from Lot 12 stepped forward. Face red. Karen, why did you not sign? He demanded. We saw the draft. It was fair. Cheaper than if the county had to take the road by eminent domain. Because then he wins, she said, wild-eyed. We cannot let some hermit dictate our access. Some hermit with the deed, someone else snapped. Voices rose. For once, none of them were yelling at me. I cleared my throat. If anyone wants to read the agreement again, I called. Holding up a folder. I have copies. It says 3 things. You acknowledge the road is on my land. You chip in on maintenance at a set rate, and your HOA stops trying to treat my parcel like common space. A woman with a baby on her hip stepped toward the fence. That is it, she asked. That is it, I said. Sign as a group, and this gate comes off. Do not. And we do this dance every time your board forgets whose name is on the plat.